We're back. This is Where You Live with Gene and Tony. We're broadcasting from the Concierge Landscape Studios, and we're brought to you by Extreme Exteriors. We have a Catwoman story coming up, hence the theme music we just played. But right now, it's time for a message from the Minnesota Multi-Housing Association. The MHA Minute is brought to you by Pest Control Services. When you need an exterminator, you want someone reliable and effective. Give Greg Keener a call at Pest Control Services, 952-894-9748. Pest Control Services is a proud member of Angie's List and a member of the Minnesota Multi-Housing Association. That's Pest Control Services, 952-894-9748. And tell Greg that Gene and Tony sent you.
Did you know that the members of the Minnesota Multi-Housing Association, or MHA, provide over a quarter of the state's housing? That's housing for more than 1 million residents. The members of MHA agree to abide by a professional code of ethics, and they know that happy residents are key to a successful business. When you're out looking for your next apartment, remember that rental references are a two-way street. Before you rent, ask if the owner is a member of MHA. If not, ask why not, and tell them to visit mmha.com. That's two M's, mmha.com. If you're an owner or manager or even an accidental landlord, you owe it to yourself to learn how the Minnesota Multi-Housing Association, its classes, certification programs, resources, staff, and faculty can help you succeed. Don't be a good landlord. Be a great one. Visit mmha.com. mmha.com.
Holy Catwoman, Batman. Cat owner battles over eviction threat. Our next story is from Chicago, Illinois. A Chicago woman may proceed in her suit against the condominium that threatened her with eviction for keeping a pet cat that she allegedly needed to help with her mental and emotional illnesses, a federal judge ruled. In 2008, Condominiums of Edelweiss discovered that Barbara Myers had a cat in her unit, a violation of its no pet policy. She'd kept the cat in her apartment for 11 years without any complaints, but the condominium demanded its removal and threatened Myers with eviction. Myers responded with a letter from her doctor stating that she needed the cat to help with her various mental and emotional illnesses, making it medically necessary under the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Now, you know, Tony, just right there, if that's all there was, that's fine.
That should have been the end of the story, because at least in this, and I think it's federally, but if you have a statement from your doctor saying this animal is necessary for treatment of whatever ails you, whatever it is that ails you, that's the end of the story. You get to keep the animal.
That should be the end of the story, yes.
But no. That's not what happened in this case. The condominium filed a motion in state court to prohibit Myers from keeping her cat, but after a bench trial, the court found that Myers' need for the cat outweighed any harm suffered by the condominium. Myers did not claim any damages at this time. Now, this is another point at which the whole issue could have stopped, right?
Exactly.
the
association didn't agree. They took him to court. That's what court's for people to disagree. The court said, you know what? Nope. We're going to favor, in this case, the homeowner.
That's right. However, 1 year later, Myers did bring a federal lawsuit against the condominium and its board of managers for allegedly violating the Fair Housing Act. Now, that confuses me a little bit. Fair housing is, people with disabilities are a protected class, aren't they? Okay. For allegedly violating the Fair Housing Act and for inflicting emotional distress on her by demanding the cat's removal.
That is the real reason right there. It is not, when people talk about, it's called a generalization. People will give the first item what is good, but then they throw in the real reason, and I think, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit jaded, but I'm kind of thinking that this person was so upset after the fact that she said, "I want to get back at them one more time," and so I want money, I want compensation.
Yeah. U.S. District Judge Gary Feinerman denied the motions and noted several times in his judgment that neither side had adequately argued their claims. So they started arguing, but the judge said, you don't have adequate argument to support your claims.
Again, an issue here. The court judged and case stepped in and said, this is it. And they said, neither one of you are really making any compelling points here. And so that should have been it, but it's not.
Now, this is where you lose me. the rest of this story because it gets so convoluted with going to different courts and different judgments. So, Gene, you're going to have to explain it, I think.
Okay.
The court found, wait a minute, back up one. Myers argued that the condominium may not oppose her federal claim because the state court denied its earlier motion on the basis that it had violated the Act. I think that means the Americans with Disabilities Act. On the contrary, the court found that the state court's opinion was based on balancing the harm to both parties. I'm already confused.
Well, that's, I mean, when they take a look at someone making a claim in court, one of the issues is what harm has been done, what truly has been taken care of. In the first instance, it was Myers who said, I've been harmed because I can show that I have a doctor-supported letter saying that I would be treated and be doing better. It'd be better for my welfare to have
this animal,
a service animal. And so they proved that would have been it. But again, because nobody was able to show any damages, Myers wasn't able to show that she was out.
She came back later and said she was harmed by the whole situation, right?
Oh, yes. But But there was, but you have to prove
that.
how that.
There you go.
Was she harmed because she ended up having to go to doctors and there were other doctors' visits and there was medical issues?
Sure.
Was there things that she was out money because of legal fees and supporting?
Yeah, it doesn't say she's after legal fees, does it?
No.
The court found the state court's opinion was based on balancing the harm to both parties. So the state court looked at both sides and said, we're not finding harm here.
Yeah.
To go on, to deny the condominium's request for injunctive relief, all the state court had to do under Illinois law was hold that the equities favored Myers. It did not have to go so far as to hold that the condominium violated the FHA.
Yeah.
However, the defendant's motion for summary judgment fared no better. They argued that Myers may not assert her claims now because she did not assert them as counterclaims in the prior state court case. The judge directly cited Illinois state law to dismiss this argument. Counterclaims in Illinois are permissive rather than compulsory. Consequently, a defendant may generally raise his or her claims by way of either a counterclaim or a separate action. So they're saying she did have the right to come back.
That would have been appropriate, but appropriate then at the time when she was dealing and in court the first time.
I see. Oh, okay. Feinerman concluded with calls for specificity in future briefings and cited a Seventh Circuit case stating that judges are busy people.
There you go.
Okay, he cited a Seventh Circuit court case that judges are busy people. Okay. And went on to say, given the lack of briefing, it cannot be said with certainty that any effort by defendants to deal with those issues was doomed to failure. But the defendants did not even try, and the court is not obligated to develop and make argument on their behalf. Again, I'm left confused. Yeah. But I think it all went too far.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing. What's interesting, both parties, when they went back to court the second time, and the judge said, "Hey, there's nothing compelling here from either side." Both of them were asking for the court to move towards what's called a summary judgment. In other words, they were both so firm in their conviction,
right,
of what should happen, that they felt that was enough and compelling, and no other evidence
was necessary.
No other arguments needed to be made. The judge was going to just, on his own, say, yep, you're right, and that other person's wrong. And the judge said, no.
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, there is, okay, you got your cat, but no, we're not going to do anything in a vindictive way here in punishing the association.
I want to make a point. You may have a service animal. You must provide documentation from a doctor saying that you need it for your condition. Landlords, homeowner associations may ask for that documentation. That's all legal. Yeah. And if you do provide the documentation, you get to keep the animal.
Yeah. And I would like to make the point to associations, especially if you're self-managed. I'm presuming that's the case. We don't know that.
Yeah.
Because there's no mention of a management company.
Yeah.
And that is, you got to know your stuff.
Yeah.
There is something that is always referred to as ignorance of the law is no excuse.
That's right.
And you can't just claim, well, I wasn't really aware of this. You got to know what you can and can't do, and the association should get additional training. Hey, that's what we were talking about. Again, what a great segue as we leave our last segment here of the first hour to join CAI. We'll give those details again at the top of the second hour. But we're going to take a break right now. Folks, don't go away. A lot more of Where You Live with Gene and Tony after these messages.